Live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to our Wednesday edition of Sports Conversation, the Fightnwords Network. As we every Wednesday night have 2 hours to talk about a number of sports with everybody around the country and some of the great reporters around the country as well. And really look forward to a great Wednesday night. And so many things are going on simultaneously at the moment that we can go in almost any direction to come up with some kind of a winner. I think what we'll do is we'll go to Roy Cummings first down in Tampa. We normally start with Roy. Well, let me interrupt myself because I just want to give an accolade to Dan Baker. Roger and I were talking about before we went on the air. Dan Baker established a new record last night at Citizens Bank Park doing the PA system for the Philadelphia Phillies and for the National League All-Star team. And Roger, maybe you would explain exactly. You and Dan grew up together. He was in your wedding party. You were in his, and he's got a long, other than Bob Shepard, he's the man.
He is the man, Don. He's the number one, the third PA announcer in Major League Baseball to be over 50 years with the team. Pat Piper with the Cubs. I remember him when I was a kid. And then, of course, Bob Shepard, the late, great Bob Shepard with the Yankees. And, of course, he did the football Giants for a long time, too. And then Dan, of course, Dan did the Eagles for 20-some years. So, in addition to the Phillies. So, he is the first PA announcer to do 3 All-Star games. And, of course, that was in 76. And I think it was 92, as I recall, and then last night. So he got a number of articles. There were 6 ABC. I sent it out to you guys, and you saw that. And there were some other printed ones. So congratulations to Dan. We go back to 1966 when we were in college, and he replaced me at Channel 48. I went back into banking part-time, and he's had a great career, well-deserving. And, of course, as many of us know, if you remember the great Gene Banks from Duke and the NBA, he was Gene Banks' elementary school basketball coach. So he's worn many hats and just a great, wonderful human being. Dan Baker.
Well, let's stay on the baseball front end. The All-Star game. We'll go right back to Tampa, and nobody's covered more baseball over the last 25 years than Roy has with the Rays and what's happened there. Roy, first of all, your observations as we talk a little bit about the All-Star game before we jump from here to thither and yon.
Yeah, a week ago, Don, you and I had a bit of a debate about boring or bad baseball. I will not say the last night's game was bad, but it wasn't really exciting. It was a little disappointing, actually. Certainly from a Phillies standpoint. Christopher Sanchez probably had his worst start of the season. Although a couple starts ago he struggled as well, so I hope that's not a trend or the beginning of one. Kyle Schwarber struggled to get some hits. Brandon Marsh. It was just a tough night obviously for the National League, and it kind of led to for me anyway, just kind of a so-so, almost forgettable All-Star game. I think almost every All-Star game has some kind of a moment in it, that everybody remembers for some reason, and usually a good reason. But last night, I'm kind of, searching again. I watched the whole game. I'm kind of searching for the moment.
I got one.
Okay, what do you got?
When Schwarber took the thing out of his ear about 18 times. When he took that thing out of the last time, I turned the game off and I went to bed. So I can't tell you anything that happened after they did that.
If they might have leaned a little bit too much on technology and trying to bring the fan between the lines with that.
You got that right.
I don't mind it, especially in an exhibition like that. If you do it a little bit here and there, you got somebody. I mean, I've absolutely loved what they've done in some of the games on national TV, where you actually have an outfielder mic'd up or an infielder or something like that. They're actually talking to you during the game. I think that's just tremendous stuff. But I think they just went a little bit too far the last night. It seemed like everybody was mic'd up. It seemed like the focus was more on what was going on between a couple of players on the benches and things like that, as opposed to what was really going on in the game. And then again, the game didn't really lend itself to anything memorable either. It was just kind of an okay game, not even a good one. So I hate to say it, but I was disappointed in the All-Star game yesterday because let's face it, when it comes to All-Star games, nobody does it better than Major League Baseball. It's a game. The players play as if it matters. And usually, again, there's usually something quite memorable comes from it. Not this time.
Roger, you had just the opposite view because you like the pregame show, you like the postgame show. We didn't talk too much about the game itself. We talked a little bit about Dan Baker, but you were encouraged about what they did. As I said, I can't comment on it because I didn't see it.
Well, I mean, I agree with Roy. The game was boring. I think that what nobody expected that after Christopher Sanchez gave up 3 runs in the first inning, that was going to be it, and then 1 home run after that. We thought we'd see a lot of the offense, which obviously we didn't see, and I think that makes it exciting. But I did think that the Major League Baseball and the Phillies did a great job with all the pregame festivities, and then you hear about all that they had like a state fair environment all around the Citizens Bank Park and the stadium complex, which I had no idea about until last night. And you hear about how much fun it was. I also thought that Fox did a great job of taking the announcers around to historical landmarks, and including the art museum. And it was funny. Big Papi said Ricky Balboa and not Rocky Balboa. And I thought Kevin Burkhardt had a quick response when he said, "Oh, he's a distant cousin." Ricky Balboa. I mean, I thought that was like really, really a great comeback, But I think that the post game show I thought was just got out of control. I think Kevin Burkhardt felt the same way. And Roy, I talked to Don and Frank about this. I think when you look at Derek Jeter there in that group, he wants to be serious about it. Let's get to the game and everything, and just very classy. Whereas the A-Rod and Big Papi, they tend to become comedians.
Yeah, I guess. I didn't watch much of the post-game show. To be honest, after Miguel Vargas was interviewed, I turned it off and went to bed. So I missed, a lot of it, if not all of it. So I didn't see that. But I think you're right. I mean, I think just in general, I think A-Rod and Big Papi tend to try to be a little bit more entertaining, whereas obviously Derek is trying to be, trying to break down the game baseball-wise. I'm sure Derek Jeter will probably find his lane there sooner or later. I mean, I think you do need that for the baseball, guys for the people who really want to know, how a ball player really feels about it. I mean, I think they all do a pretty good job, so I think they play off each other. But, here's the thing, guys. When we consider the pregame show and the postgame show to be the best parts of the entire offering, that kind of tells you something about the game. And I thought in the first inning, I thought, oh my gosh, this could be a 12-11 game, in which case it would have been quite memorable. But as it turns out, that was all the offense. And I don't even remember seeing any really great defensive plays. It just seemed like it was just kind of an ordinary game with a lot of routine plays. And it was just kind of a routine game, really.
Well, they kept my records intact. I think I'm going now at least 20 years, maybe more, without saying home run derby. And they did it on 2 occasions this year because I would have turned it on. So I would have paid $9 to see the home run derby to begin with. But so I can't comment on that. So let's talk about this is a big part of baseball. They like to indoctrinate everybody on home runs and speed of pitches and how far a ball goes and all that kind of stuff that I couldn't care less about. And so, what'd you think of the home run derby?
Well, I enjoyed it. It was on Netflix, which I'm sure a lot of people were probably upset about. Look, a home run derby is still an iconic moment, no matter who's involved. Anytime, that's something that baseball can do that nobody else can do it like that. I was disappointed with the home run derby. I was disappointed because we didn't see some of the really tremendous power hitters in the game. Granted, we saw Schwarber. Jordan Walker did a great job, obviously, winning the thing.
Right.
First Cardinal to win, so good for him. He's having a tremendous season after a fairly lengthy struggle, I would say 2, 3, 4 years at least, trying to find his way with the Cardinals. He seems to have really found it this year, and good for him. I think I would have been a lot more intrigued and interested had we had Shohei Ohtani been in it, had Nick Kurtz been in it, had E. Crow Armstrong been in it. Now, granted, a lot of these guys opt out because they're concerned about injuries developing, and because these guys are overswinging and things like that. So, I get why some people opt out, but
And Soda, he opted out too.
yes, exactly. And at the end of the day, look,
Bill.
you can ignore it if you want,
Secret
Don,
note when he's here.
but still,
case I fall.
way back in the 50s and early 60s, you guys remember it because you were in your prime back then. You remember the old home run derby show where they played at Wrigley Field in Los Angeles during the off season. You had
I'll
Mickey
get this
Mantle
tonight.
against Henry Aaron, and Willie Mays
I'll get
against
this tonight.
Orlando Cepeda. That show. Ever since then, home run derby's been just a classic, can't miss event. It's probably better in person than it is live, or on TV. But still, it's I don't have a problem with home run derby, to be honest with you. I just wish we could have seen some of the more notable power hitters in the game involved at this time.
Roger?
Well, I'm with Don, Roy, and Frank. I'm not going to spend $9 on Netflix. I just don't need it. And
You're missing an awful lot of good programming, fellas.
well, I'll tell you, I'm sure I am. I hear a lot of that from people.
If you want to know the truth.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it's not worth it. I just don't watch enough TV, period, Roy. That's the thing. I'm teaching, and when I get home, I'm tired or I'm doing other work, believe it or not. And, when you're dealing with young people every day and during the school year, I'm at shows and games and working grilling at for the band parents on Friday night. So I just don't have a lot of time and a lot of interest. But I did watch that game from one end to the other last night, and it's just a shame it wasn't more entertaining with more offense.
Right. Well, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk. We won't talk a great deal about the soccer this afternoon, the 2-1 win, because of Mike Zimzackle. We'll spend a lot of time with our soccer expert in a couple of segments down the road. But just an observation, did you fellas have a chance to see the game today? And if you did, your thoughts? Roger?
Well, I saw a little bit of it, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. The owner of the driver training school is a varsity boys soccer coach at a private school nearby, and he set up the big screen in the classroom. And I was setting up for tomorrow's classes, and he had it on, and some of the drivers came in there to watch it, and then I did see, or I forget because I was doing some work. I saw when England scored, when they got their goal, and
Right.
That was it. I didn't see any more of it.
It was a pretty good
After
game.
that, Roger, I can tell you that. unlike the All-Star game last night, the World Cup is not disappointed, guys. It has been tremendous, and today's game was just another classic. I mean, I got to believe throughout the world, the soccer, the soccer heads are just going crazy. They got to be loving it. You got to be loving it, and because the games are so good. This was just another example of just how great the tournament has been. I mean, they set it up for a tremendous final where you've got a European champion against a world champion, and okay, let's see how it goes. It's been a great tournament, and today did not disappoint in any way, nor did yesterday's game. So it's been a great tournament. I got to believe the final is going to be exceptional as well. And you can't go wrong with the World Cup, guys. That's for sure.
I think the other factor is, that Messi's going to get to play in the final game, which I think is very, very important, not only for the sport, but for the television audience, because I'll be very interested to see the ratings have been so good all the way down the line. Over 20 million many times so far, and for the one of the I can't say the best player in soccer, but certainly very close to the best player of all time in soccer. Messi's going to be right there for the final game. I think that's very important, Roger.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I'd like to have your opinion, of maybe all of you, of how does he compare to years ago with Pele? Because I remember Pele's impact on soccer in the U.S. on a much limited score. We didn't have Major League Soccer like we do now. And I can remember, what was it, the Ukrainian Nationals,
That's a thing for Mike.
Frank and Don, and the
That's for later on tonight.
that played on on Sundays. And that was it. And then the Adams played at Temple Stadium. Because I remember going there with my late wife after church one time to see, part of the game, and CBS was telecasting the game. But how does this guy compare to Pele as far as impact on soccer in the soccer world?
Maybe Roy will have a little different opinion. I thought that Pele made a much bigger impression, primarily because of the Northeast. He made soccer in New York for 3 or 4 years. I mean, it was unbelievable what he was able to bring to a sport that very few people had that kind of interest in. So I got to say, Pele, for a short period of time, 3 years or 4 years, especially in the Northeast, New York, Yankee Stadium, and so forth, I thought he was absolutely a Babe Ruth of soccer. Roy?
Yeah, I don't disagree, Don. I that's kind of how I feel as well. Now, look, I haven't watched a lot of soccer. I don't know the game well enough to make that comparison. But I will say, I will agree with Don that I think the impact that Pele had might have been greater, because I don't think kids are playing the game now because of Messi, or because of because of Kane with England or Ronaldo or some of those guys. They're playing it because it's out there and it's available, and it's a great way to let kids run around and get unleash some energy. I think that has more to do with it than anything. I think Pele and Franz Beckenbauer and teams like the Rowdies here, and I think those teams, I think that era really woke people up to what soccer can be. The U.S. still hasn't caught up in terms of producing players, but I think seeing Pele, I think he was, to me, a more dynamic player. Now, I have watched a lot of Messi in this particular tournament. I saw a stat where apparently he walked about 65% of the time on the field. He's in the twilight of his career. I don't think there's any question about it. He's still one of the best players in the world. But I think even when he came over to America, Pele was still as good as any player in the world at that time. Again, somebody who knows the game better than I, could probably debate that. But I just think he was more dynamic. It was an event. When Pele, was on TV, or when he came to Tampa, it was an event. When the New York Cosmos came to Tampa, they filled up Tampa Stadium and to see him. I don't think that many people go to go see Messi play with the MLS, and it's one of the things that I think it's unfortunate about what soccer's. The big question is going to be at the end of this. Is this going to fuel an interest in soccer? It may to some degree, but it's not going to get more people to go out and watch MLS because let's face it, guys, MLS is a minor league. When you play in a league and you wish you were in a different league, a better league, well, you're a minor league, and that's what MLS is. It's not the Premier League. It's not. It's nothing even close to the level that they're playing at in the top 2 tiers over in Europe. So, or South America for that matter. So, the fact that Messi's here, it's a drawing card and it's a bit of a publicity stunt. He's a great player. But I think overall for me, I think Pele and those guys put soccer on the map here. They made people aware of it. Whereas, guys like Messi and some of those that are playing now, they draw you to it, but they don't really make you aware. It's not as much of an event for me, seeing those guys play.
Frank, you saw it from both sides, Philadelphia and, of course, Tampa as well, both in Florida and in the Northeast. Any comments from your side? Were you interested in Pele when he played?
Yeah, I think there's right now what we're looking at is, I've not only coached soccer, but I've also refereed soccer. I think we're talking about 2 different dynamics here. When Pele played, everything was almost gingerbread compared to today. Today, these guys are fighting for every goal that they get. And you see it's a very hard knock game out there. I think Messi in his time has done, this is his 17th goal in World Cup. He set every record there is for the World Cup. I think this is a very tough time because you got Ronaldo decided now he's not going to go. Now, what happens to Messi at 39 years old? Does he come back next year? I don't know. But
I don't think so.
The next World Cup, he'll be too old to come back. And this was a nice way for him to go out. I think I was really impressed with the way he handled things with his family and coming out of the locker room. All these guys are coming out with $3,000 suits on. He's coming out with his shirt on and just jeans and flip-flops. He's a very personal guy, very humble man, and I really appreciate his type of soccer. Yes, he does walk a lot. I think everybody knows that. But hey, you're out there for 2 hours. You get and now they're giving the water break. Normally they don't get a water break or hydration break, whatever you want to call it. But that's 2 hours of running, 2 hours of pushing guys around, getting pushed around, dropping on the ground, whatever. This type of hockey is become a very exclusive type hockey. I'm sorry, soccer.
Roger, one comment I would have to say, I never thought when I got all the information of what Fox was going to do and how they were going to do it, I never thought they'd have the kind of success that they have had, not only from a standpoint of broadcasting the games, but the fact that the ratings that they've gotten for the World Cup in the United States, which, as Roy said a minute ago, was not a dominant sport. And I gotta give Fox a lot of credit. They took a heck of a gamble and they came out with all aces.
Yeah, I agree, Don. I think they've done a fantastic job. They've had a great mix of international people along with American soccer aficionados, and I agree. That's all I can say. I think they've done a magnificent job. I've enjoyed the games and all of the surrounding reports and shows about it. And I learned. I mean, my kids played soccer. My daughter plays probably more than the other two. But I agree. I mean, I'm not that big of a fan, but I learned a lot. I can tell you that. And maybe that's the most important thing anybody can say.
Roy, we can't jump out without going back to baseball. And
has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hey, Mike, it's Frank calling for the show. I'll call you back in a couple of minutes.
And one of the reasons it's a surprise is because, the bulk of their offense, about 60% of it, more, maybe more, comes from three guys, Junior Caminero, Jonathan Aranda, and Yandy Diaz. Those three guys have carried this team, along with obviously some very, very good pitching. But it just makes you wonder, how long can that go on? If the Yankees get healthy, and they do somehow, get that bullpen going again, if they can, find a piece there, I think they could probably overtake the Rays. I really do. The Rays just need, because again, what you're asking is that you're asking the Rays to get another half a season out of Diaz, Aranda, and Caminero like they've already gotten. I don't think that's asking too much.
well, Roy, Miller seems to be their target.
Who's target?
The Yankees.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it is. But I think they're gonna if they're gonna get Miller from San Diego, arguably the preeminent closer in the game right now, a guy who throws 100 miles an hour almost every time he throws the ball. I think they're going to have to give up at least a couple of pieces that are on the roster right now. They're going to have to give up something legitimate. And some really good pieces. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I understand that's their target, and the Yankees, being the Yankees, think they can, get just about anything, and usually they can. But I don't know that they need that piece. I'm sure there are probably a couple of other closers out there that they could get that could make a difference for them. But more than anything, I think the Yankees just need to get healthy. They get healthy. They've got they got power. And if the power starts coming through, they can out-hit the problems with the bullpen. So, but, can the Rays hang on? They can, but again, what they need is a bunch of guys who haven't done much yet to start doing some more. And that may be asking a lot. Again, the Rays, you're talking about, David and Goliath here in terms of spending ability and the ability to even trade for people. I'm sure the Rays will be involved in that in some way, but there's not much that the Rays can really offer teams these days and they can't take on much salary, or they won't take on much salary. So.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good.
Good. You having a good summer?
Yeah, how's your summer going?
Can't complain. Are you feeling okay now?
Yeah, doing a lot better.
Great. Okay, I'm going to say hello to your wife for us and thank her for letting us have your time for tonight.
No worries.
I'm going to merge you right in.
All right, great.
Salary, they're in the same boat.
Yeah, they are. I think that what they really need is a real good right-handed bat because to balance it out, and they need to hit. They just have not hit like they should be, or we expected them. I will say this though. I talked about the draft pick they had from last year, who's really tearing it up in the minors, and they're concerned. I can say I think he's going to get called up, this kid. And Billy Warrendale talked about him last week. And what I read the other day is that he's doing really well. And what they probably the plan is going to be that he'll be the left-handed closer. and then Duran will be the right-hander. He's done a great job. I think he's 24 out of 25 saves. So I think that's what's coming, and I hope it happens, because I'm sick and tired of these other teams drafting and getting what they call good draft picks, and they do well in the minors. They bring them up, and you look at a couple of them that were in the All-Star game, and I think this kid proved himself in college, and he's proved himself in the minors. I think let's give it a shot. That's my feeling about it.
Well, our final 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Roy, how about your Cubbies? They come up and down like the elevator.
Yeah, it's an old cliche, but boy, that first half of the season was really a roller coaster ride with those guys. Look, they're on the hill now. You got to think maybe a dive is coming. I hope not. But, Pico Armstrong has really made a difference of late. And just as the All-Star break was coming on, Alex Bregman was finally starting to hit. So, let's see what happens. Look, the pieces are much like the Phillies. Pieces are all there. The Cubs have somehow fought through and stayed in contention despite all the losses they've had with the pitching staff. And I mean, they're on that pitching staff is just pieces of it's made up of pieces of guys that weren't even in baseball a year ago. So it's been a rough run for them in the pitching wise. Offensively, they've done pretty well at times, done really well at times, done poorly at times. But I think the pieces are all there, much like the Phillies. They can somehow just manage to find some consistency. They should be good, and they should get at least get to the playoffs.
Roy, once again, a great first half hour. We touched on so many different things. We hope we gave a little bit of information to a lot of people listening around the country and wherever you may be listening to the program. And we thank you so much for that. But, Roy, we'll look forward to next week again, and we'll start all over again.
All right, guys. Thank
you, Roy.
All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to switch to something, if you can believe it. We've been in soccer, we've been in baseball, we've been all over the world, but we haven't talked football for a long time. And it's time right now that you look at ESPN and you see some of the prognosticators saying who's going to do what in the ACC, how the ACC is now going to change their perception of the playoff and what they're going to do about ties and so forth and so on. And Mike Schulte is nobody better to talk to than Mike down there in that Tampa area. Mike, nice to have you back with us. Football's on the agenda. You got here more quickly than I thought. Let's start off first of all with the University of Tampa. They got a new coach, came out of Michigan. He's got a lot of publicity and a lot of ink getting in to get started. What's the word there? You're right there.
Which school are you talking about there?
Tampa.
University of Tampa.
Yeah.
They get a new baseball coach. I don't know if they have a football team.
Yeah, they don't. They don't play
South Florida.
Yeah.
South Florida.
I'm not sure.
He's talking about He's talking about your alma mater, USF.
No, I think the world got you confused a little bit. We're going to talk real football here. No, World Cup's been great. It's been great to watch. Football season is right on the horizon. You have the conference media days have been taking place. Last week was the Big 12 media days. This week is the ACC media days, as you had mentioned. And actually, the SEC media days are going to be held in Tampa next week, Monday to Thursday, for the first time ever. And that's going to be huge because that's the biggest media days of all the conferences. And they're about 1,000 media people and other folks from around the country in for that. So that's going to be really neat to have all the SEC coaches coming through here with their top players and all the media from around the country covering the SEC football. So, we're right on the horizon of football starting, and it's going to be very, very exciting to get back into the season for sure.
Well, everybody's off and running with the ACC and Miami. What they want 13-3. I think I don't have the number from me, but I believe it was 13-3 last year. Got to the championship, and
that's a lot of people are picking them again. I was just watching an interview. They're saying how they pretty much reloaded from last year. They had I got some new people coming in. Obviously,
got a gangbuster quarterback. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, he played at Duke last year and had a good year there. So we'll see how he does. We've talked about this before. It's really especially hard now, harder than it used to be. In the preseason to know who's going to be real good and who's not, because of the transfer portal and so many moving pieces moving around. And so, on paper, it looks like a lot of these guys are going to be pretty good, but we'll have to see how they do and how the new people coming in, factor into it and so forth. That the old days of having players that come in as freshmen and they have a year or two to develop, and by their junior senior years they coalesce into a really good team or whatever the case. That's out the window now. It's free agents every year, and every year you have a new team. I know the Iowa State is a good example. Their coach went to Penn State to take that job in the off season, and he took about 16 to 20 players with him from Iowa State, where they went, and so the new coach comes into Iowa State, and he doesn't have one returning starter on the team from last year. So how do you predict how they're going to be?
Yeah, you see how Franklin, when he left Penn State and started doing that with Virginia Tech, and he brought a lot of players with him as well.
Yeah, well, it happens. I mean, it happens even if you don't lose a coach. But then if you lose a coach, then you're even more vulnerable. So it's just so hard to predict, in the preseason, what these teams are going to look like. And even if you get good players coming in who were played good at other schools, you don't know how they're going to mesh with with the other players you have there already, or the other new players you bring in, because there's no continuity there. There's no camaraderie, chemistry, and all that. So it's really become a huge, even harder job, I should say, for coaches to put together these rosters, because like I said, they're dealing with so many changes each year. They're not just looking at okay, we had 5 players graduate, so we got to replace those guys, and we know what we got with the rest of them. I mean, there's a lot of times these coaches are dealing with a whole new lineup, and they don't know how it's going to be in the locker room with some of these players and all that. So I wouldn't want to be a coach these days. That's for sure.
Roger?
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, I'm following some teams that are in the lower, Division I group. Like Villanova is moving to the Patriot League, and what they did was a man and woman that I have subbed for and I'm friends with, their son went from Tennessee Tech, he's the kicker, to Villanova, and he got a full scholarship. And then, so now I never paid any attention to Villanova. I did somewhat because I went to high school and graduated with Andy Talley, who was there for years. But I'm looking at that team now, and now I see the recruits that they've gotten on the transfer portal, and I also see the recruits that they have coming out of major high school teams, like Don Bosco Prep in North Jersey, that have produced a lot of great college players over the years. I think Phil Sims, one of his sons went there, the other one went to Bergen Catholic, and both had great careers. So this is what I'm interested in, and the young man got a full scholarship, which is worth about $90,000. And the rationale was that the mother told me that when they went up there, the coach said that he looked at last year's games and he felt that if they had a real good, consistent kicker, that they would have won some of those games. So here's an opportunity for a young man went from a football school to a basketball school in some ways, but he's excited and he's been up there since June. And I just think you look at it, the way they have to recruit today and how much a place kicker can mean in the success of a team.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Kicking has always been underrated until somebody misses a field goal in a crucial time, and then everybody's like, "Why don't you have a better kicker?" You know, it's like nobody pays attention to them. It's like well, it's sort of like referees. Nobody pays attention to them until they do a bad job. But yeah, it's and of course the NIL money and all that is out there. These guys are having to manage these budgets and all that. I mean, they're saying, some of these teams are fielding $50 million budgets for these programs, and that's a whole other thing. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, a lot of the top end quarterbacks right now are getting $6.5 million a season, and which is also why so many of them are fighting the any limitation on the number of years they play, because even the ones well, it's a good example last year. There were players last year, quarterbacks last year, that went to the NFL that had to take a pay cut to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And then there's some, like I said, that we're wanting to get in the NFL because or wanted an extra year of eligibility because they knew they weren't going to get drafted. So it's a crazy business right now. But all that said, it is great to be on the doorstep of the college football season again. We always lament about January, but about how no more college football for a while. But you're right; it's right back on us. And a month from now, just over a month from now, we're going to be watching games, and I can't be more excited.
Mike, I'd like to see you and Frank both comment on Notre Dame, because Notre Dame ended a very unusual season at the end of 25, and what are the projections for 26, and how that's going to come about?
Well, I don't know a lot of detail about it, but a lot of folks are saying that Notre Dame is going to be right up there in the top 10 again this year. They've been able to add some players there and do what they need to stay among the top programs. Like I said, provided that's accurate. You've got the. You mentioned the ESPN, power rankings or whatever they call them, coming out for preseason and such. And you got your normal guys up there. You got Ohio State and Texas and Oregon and Notre Dame's right there with them. Indiana, of course, last year they were the surprise team, right, or last 2 years, and now of course they're the defending champions. So. Obviously they know what they're doing there, and they've got the right formula. And again, it goes back to these rosters, being able to have enough money to buy the players that you need, the talent that you need in the right positions, and of course, then obviously, make good decisions on those people to make sure that you're spending your money on the right people, and that you're bringing in the right people that are going to fit into your system. And so I think Notre Dame is definitely going to be among the top 10. And, like I said, we'll have to see how they do as the season goes through. I don't believe...
Let me just ask,
I don't believe they have a really hard schedule compared to some other schools. So that may be, favor them a little bit, give them a nice runway to get going in the season at least, so that they can sort of show what they have.
So let me just ask Frank here, because he followed Notre Dame more closely than any of the three of us. But Frank, they ended on a sour note, deciding they would not go to any bowl games or anything because of the fact that they were not designated by the ACC to get what they thought they should get recognition-wise at the end of the year. Where does all that stand now, Frank?
Well, they've had a excuse me, a wonderful.
Then we don't have Frank Worth anymore.
Yeah, I'm here.
He might be tied up.
Yeah, here we go. They had the best recruiting system this year that they've had in 25 years. They brought on some really top-notch players, not only from other schools, but they recruited some pretty good five-star athletes from around the country. CJ Carr is going to blossom this year. He did a good job last year, but he's got a couple receivers that are excellent. They're fast. They can catch, and that's a big thing because a lot of times last year, especially in the second game, and Mike, you were talking about the schedule. They had a team that was not supposed to even be in the stadium with them, beat them. The only team that beat them last year. They are going to. They've got some cornerbacks that are able to move the ball around. It's going to be a fascinating year. The only thing that scares the hell out of me, and this is just my little bitch, is there is so much publicity at this point in time. Every single day, either on MSN or Yahoo or a couple of the other papers, they're getting an awful lot of play. I just I'm a little shaken up about that because that is almost an omen for me that something's going to happen, that we're not going to show up the way we should.
Mike?
Yep.
Agree or disagree?
No, I agree. I mean, that can factor into things. The mindset of players is key, obviously, and we see it all the time where teams stumble when they shouldn't, and so forth. So it, like you said, I mean, when you get all that hype and that publicity and social media these days and such, I mean, it's as a coach, you have to sort of fight against that, make sure that keep them grounded. And and that's a little bit about what happened last year with Notre Dame, right? I mean, they had they messed up in that game. I mean, they really did. They just for whatever reason they lost. But at the same time, I think that losing really refocused them, and you saw how good they were, going out from there. So sometimes you need one of those games or come close to losing a game you shouldn't. Just to refocus the guys. So, when all the hype is before the season starts, you got to make sure that going into the season, those first couple of games, that they're, they know how important those games are, because every game is important. Still, thankfully, in college football, it's not like a lot of other sports where you can ramp up to playing good. Like I think basically in basketball is a good example of that, right? Because you have so many games, and you can start out, whatever, but then you start playing together a little bit more, and you get more used to each other, and then you get your stride, and that kind of thing. Football season is not long enough to do that, and even with a 12-team playoff, you can't lose more than 2 games to even get in the playoff, much less be seeded high. So, you got to pay attention right from the get-go, and any kind of distraction like that, you got to be really careful, because those first couple of games of the season, you're playing teams that maybe you don't have much information about, especially because of the transfer portals, things like that. Next thing you know, you play some team whose name isn't a big name, but they got a couple really good players in the portal that nobody realizes how good they are. And next thing you know, they trip you up coming out the front door, first week or 2 of the season. Now you're playing catch up the rest of the year. So they obviously, have last year to look at as an attention getter too, to say, okay, let's not let that happen again. Let's focus right from the get-go here, and not, let something like that happen again, so that we can really make a run this year.
Roger, down in your neck of the woods, University of Georgia, a lot of great football, but also a lot of negative publicity to go along with it. What do you think?
Well, what else is new? Okay.
Yeah.
No, they've had some other negative publicity that are in the NFL now. Okay, so in the past, but I think that's what you take when you're at the top of the mountain, and you get a lot of criticism. Mike, I did want to ask you, getting back to the NIL and the possible constraints and limitations on a number of years that players are going to be able to play. Do you sense that will come to pass and become law or become enacted?
Well, the NCAA enacted the rule of 5 years to play 5 year window. That's it. 5 years.
Mhm.
You have 5 years to play. And already they have, my understanding, at least 20 players who have sued, to stop that. So, now it's going to be in the courts again, just like every other rule. Okay.
Always in the courts.
It's the new world now, right? Every rule, somebody's going to sue and then stop the rule. And that's just the way it is right now, which is very, very unfortunate. I don't understand it. I wish I went to law school so I could understand why it is that I understand people can file lawsuits for anything, right? But I don't understand how it is that these people have legitimate cases on literally anything that they file a lawsuit on, because it seems like I can't remember the last time a lawsuit didn't win, or at least prevent a rule from taking place, because the other thing too is they shop around, and I'm not, whether you're for or against the rule, I'm not talking about that. It's just the fact that the reality that somebody's going to sue, and then they're going to find a judge somewhere, and all they have to do is find one judge someplace who is in favor of your lawsuit to rule, in your favor, and then it just stops everything until it goes through the whole court system and all that stuff. I mean, it's sort of ridiculous. That whole thing with the kid from Texas Tech, the quarterback, right, with all this stuff.
Right.
They were like, they have this, they said, conference says, we can't play him and all this kind of stuff, right? So whether you agree with it or not. So they sue, and they find a judge that says, who's a Texas Tech fan, but he says, oh no, we're going to put a stay on this. You can't enact that and all that. Well, the court date to be after the season's over. Well, what the heck good is that? Because basically you say, well, you have to let them play, but then, okay, but what if they end up winning the case? Doesn't matter, because the guy's season's already over, and he's not even playing on the team.
Right.
By the time it goes to the court. So that's the issue with all that. But the other thing I'd like to mention to you guys, and I think it's good for you guys to maybe think about too and talk about, is the SEC this year has gone to a 9-game conference schedule from an 8-game conference schedule. That was something that they agreed to enact this starting this year. And I believe the ACC is at 9-game conference schedule as well. That's a big deal, because that's another really, really high quality opponent that these guys have to work through, right? And they, the coaches agreed to doing that. They talked about it for many years. Finally, last year they approved it, and this is the first year they're going to have a 9-game conference schedule to match the Big Ten's 9-game schedule in conference. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to look at, because of when you're looking at their schedules now, they don't have that third non-conference opponent, which maybe not so good.
Give me game. Give me game.
Yeah. And so. And the other thing is, a lot of these guys, they would play that game, like sort of later in the season and that kind of stuff, before they played their big rivalry game or something like that. They don't have that now. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the SEC, and you can make an argument as to which conference is better and all that kind of stuff. But top to bottom, I think the SEC is certainly a very strong conference, if not the strongest, top to bottom. I'm not talking about
Right.
that you can't compete in the playoff, but I'm saying from the very top to the very bottom. And so, having that ninth game is going to be really interesting this year to see how that works out for them.
Mike also touched on Florida because I said, talking about Georgia and the enthusiasm and what has happened down in Georgia over the last number of years. But the competition has always been great in Florida. And other than Miami, right now they seem to be struggling a little bit. I don't know whether it's recruiting, I don't know whether it's coaching, I don't know. But it's a little bit different than it was for a great number of years in Florida.
Yeah, it's like so many things, right? Eventually things shift around and so forth. And so many years you had, Miami was up there and Florida State was up there, and
Right.
Florida kept chasing them, and then it was Florida and Florida State, and Miami has been chasing them, and now Miami's back. Florida State sort of dropped. Florida's dropped. Now Miami's the king guy in the state, right? So it's going to be really interesting. I know Florida State has been making they made a lot of coaching changes this year, not their head coach, but a lot of new assistants there, which will be interesting to see how that works out. And, Florida has a new head coach again, but, I think he understands what the goal is there and what.
Come on, Michael.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to
LSU got Lane Kiffin, but Florida and Auburn got the USF coach, to go up there, it's a right to shift there, and they also got the quarterback that USF had. He was a really quality quarterback, so that was a 2-for-1 deal there that they got. So it's going to be interesting to see if Auburn can sort of get back to being a real competitive team in the SEC. Obviously, LSU made a change, with Lane going over, but again, Florida has a new coach. Are they going to be back to the level that they've typically been at? Again, so many big name schools that have new coaches this year, and that's going to be really interesting to see what happens this year with those programs.
Roger?
Yeah, I agree, Mike. And, we talked about this with you, I remember last season, about these major programs they hired.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm sorry. I just missed you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to set you right in. We're just finishing up with Mike Schultze.
It's like the head of personnel, and scouting, and he's in Florida. Okay, so it's just amazing how college football, especially, is changing with the added dimension of new personnel to monitor these NIL contracts and everything else. If you looked at this, I was watching a show, and it had Spurrier when he was at Florida. And it doesn't seem like that was many years ago, but it was. And it was just, it was so different looking at him. And I know a friend of mine that was in business, then he went to the Cardinals as VP of Business Development. He played for Spurrier at Duke. And, it just seems like it was yesterday. And we're talking about like 30 years,
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, there's a lot of changes. The programs are starting to become more like NFL programs, and it all starts with the money. Entering money into this whole thing has changed the complete dynamic of everything, because the money drives the players wanting to be able to switch schools whenever they want, so they can chase the money. It drives, the coaching carousel even more. because now you're talking about so much money that you're paying. It's always been a thing. Well, you're paying the coach X amount of dollars. Now you're playing things. You got a $50 million payroll on the football for the football players, and all that. Now you're dealing with that, so that makes the coach's job even more tenuous. Because they're
get more boosters.
Well, it's true though. I mean, they're asking boosters stuff to pay money to be able to afford the players, and that puts more pressure on the coach winning, right? And so and then you've got all the other aspects of it, and so that's where they brought in these guys are bringing in quote general managers to basically oversee the whole money operation with the athletes, basically. Because it's not like the old days. It's where you convince mom and dad to let their kid come to your school and you show them your nice facilities. I mean, now it's all about money.
Right.
Just like in the pros, you have a general manager and go out and get the coach players.
Mike, before we let you go tonight, we only got about a minute left in this segment, and Norlac was full. You've been there how many years now? You talk about being homegrown.
Well, we just celebrated our 40th anniversary last year.
Let's give a little publicity tonight.
Yeah, there you go. So 40 years of the bowl games, and this will be our 5th year as the Reliant West Bowl, and we're excited for the season. Big Ten SEC will be on New Year's Eve day at noon kickoff, just like last year, and really looking forward to getting the season going here.
I'll tell you, what a great job that you've done over the years too, and not just to pat you on the back because you got a staff and a lot of people that work with you, and but all down through the years we've had the pleasure of being at many of your games, and they have been so competitive and so interesting. We just talked about the the All-Star game earlier in the first half of tonight's show, and your game always seems to step up. It always seems to be a very competitive game that's fun to watch.
Well, it is, and in large part, we have the Big Ten and the SEC in our game. Okay, the two biggest conferences, two most followed conferences, most successful conferences in the history of the game. The bragging rights, if you will, at the end of the day, is so hard. It's so big with that. And these teams, the level of teams we get, are really quality teams, even though they're not in the playoffs. And they come to play. I will tell you that I've never seen a game where a team showed up and wasn't ready to play their hearts out. And they perform on the field. And because of that, we've had many very, very exciting games, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of it.
Well, Mike, thank you very much as always, and we'll get together many times during the football season. As you say, don't look at the preseason ratings. Look at how we go as the season unfolds, because all things change.
In October, I'll think.
Yeah. Mike, you sound great.
Thanks, Mike.
Sounds like you're totally recovered.
Yeah, doing much better. Doing really well. So
Don't go on vacation this year.
very thankful. Yeah, I plan to be around all December this year.
There you go.
Boy. Mike,
Thanks, Mike.
thank you very much as we turn.
Forward to talking football as we go through the week.
You got it, partner. And we'll switch over now, turn the page, and we talked a little bit about soccer, but we'll talk about it in great depth now with a man that really covers soccer for us week in and week out, year in and year out. Mike Zimzak is joining us now. And Mike, maybe you'd like to talk about today's game first. Very interesting. England scored first, take a 1-0 lead, and then Massey and company came on to win it 2-1. 70,000 people there watching soccer, and I don't know how many millions we're going to find out tomorrow. How many millions watch it on Fox? I think they've done a terrific job. Your thoughts, first of all, about today's game as we set the stage for the finals on Sunday.
Oh, doggone it, I thought we were going to talk about cricket today.
I covered that this morning.
Yeah. Now you want to talk about soccer and these things. these knockout stages have been absolutely phenomenal. What we've seen in the semifinals, yesterday, Spain taking the number one team in the world, France, apart, winning 2-0. Today, Argentina being the team that would not die. And so we end up with Spain and Argentina. Funny storyline abound with that one. Lamine Yamal, the 19-year-old who may become the best player in the world, against Lionel Messi, who is widely regarded as the greatest player ever. And it goes deeper than that. Lamine Yamal comes in, he takes over the right wing position that Messi originally played. And he's looked at as the heir apparent to Messi, to the great to have played that. And so a lot has been put on this kid. And it's going to be the storyline's about. This has been a great World Cup. And there's plenty to digest. I just wish England, after they scored that one goal, hadn't decided to try and protect that lead. If they tried to go and attack and put another goal on, I think England wins this game.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was surprised. I couldn't imagine the fact that the first half, and then they just sort of went into a shell.
I was very surprised that was what they did. They played this game about a week ago against Mexico in a more hostile environment. Mexico did to them exactly what Argentina did. We're going to kick at your ankles. We're going to play the dark arts. We're going to play keep away. We're going to put pressure on you. And they overcame. In fact, they won that game with one of the greatest defensive sieges I've seen since the Trojan War. But they still won that game in Mexico. They came out 3-2 winners. I was surprised that with one goal, that was the tactic that either the manager or the player decided to adopt. The thing they needed to attack, I thought that at that team, they had them on the ropes. They could go and get another goal. England had gotten that second goal. They're playing in the finals this year.
Roger?
Yeah, I'm sure that you've got that right on, Mike, when you look at it. And but you know, we talked about it last week about the poor performance, maybe lack of preparation, hustle by the U.S. But overall, I mean, this has to be, from a soccer perspective, one of the best World Cups, if not the best, in history. How's your assessment about that statement?
I think that we've had a lot of very good games. I think that the storylines that one of the reasons why, Roger, you might say that he's the best ever is we've had a lot of teams that have never played on this level, that have been introduced to this level,
Right.
and perform very, very well. And I'm thinking about specifically about Cape Verde, and they're eventually losing, but 3-2 effort against Argentina. in their round of 16 games. I thought that was one of the best games that I've ever watched. Just how resilient Cape Verde were, and I've watched them play. I know that is what they do, but that they stood up against Argentina, and it was it went to extra time. It went to the last minute. And then you followed up almost the next day with England against Mexico in Mexico City at the Azteca, where Mexico has lost 2 out of their last 90 games. And I've been talking to my English friends and saying, like, y'all don't understand what you're getting into. You're going to go to, almost 7,000 feet altitude. You're going to play a game in an absolute cold rain where everybody's yelling at you in Spanish and Mayan and Quechua, and you're going to have to deal with, as we saw, regular mariachi concerts and fireworks displays throughout the night, so you can't sleep. It's going to be hot. Nobody wins there. And they pulled that off. So on back-to-back days, we got 2 of the better games that we've ever seen in this state. And then we move forward. Argentina winning in the last couple of minutes over Morocco. It's just been very, very compelling.
Mike, let me ask you this. The one thing that has been pretty much constant when you went from the 16 down to where we are today, even in the Belgian game, don't criticize the officials as much as, they don't come out. In fact, the coach wouldn't even acknowledge that. He wouldn't take any questions from the press about what he thought had happened during the game in terms of penalties were concerned. As many of the championship games have as many problems with not having the top line officials working the big games, or is this just an anomaly?
There's 2 things there, Don, that I gotta answer. Number one, nobody's gonna criticize the officials because they don't want to catch the fine and suspension for doing it. But then when you look at the tournament, think of this like the NCAA tournament. In the NCAA tournament, the NCAA basketball tournament, we bring in our best refs, and they are graded. And how they are graded dictates how they proceed through the tournament.
Right.
So the higher your grade, the better you officiate the match. Dictates how long you will be officiating in this tournament. So I'll be honest, I don't think that this England-Argentina game was particularly well officiated. I think the official let a lot of stuff go very, very early. That I think he should have put his foot down, issued a couple cards early, and never let anybody get into the kicking and fouling the way that they did. But he had graded out enough to be in the position to referee the World Cup semifinal.
Right.
Now, I don't think that he will be that will not be the official. But that's where we are.
Roger?
Well, Mike, my question is that we were talking about this earlier with Roy Cummings about the MLS is, when you think about it, is a minor league, okay? Even though it's done a lot of things to improve soccer, bring soccer higher in the popularity, etc. My question was to everybody at the time, Is Messi or Pele more influential on the game of soccer? And the consensus was Pele. And at the time, it really did take off in northeastern United States. You may be too young, because this goes back to the 60s and early 70s. But I want your opinion. You know soccer. And what is it? Is this going to improve the competition, the attendance at MLS, or is this just a one-time big event that took place in the United States?
Roger, you asked me about 3 questions in there.
Well, that's what I like to do, because you're the expert. You're the man.
You asked me about 3 questions. So I'm going to try and tackle them in the order that I.
Okay, Pele.
Messi. And then there were 2 questions in there. Who had the bigger impact? Pele was one of the greatest growers of the game. His charisma, him coming to New York Cosmos from Santos, how he played the game at the point in time. He was everything that you wanted him to be. He grew the game. He was massively important. And he did a great job.
And games were televised by CBS too. Because
games were televised. But we're also talking about 50s, 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. You know, how many people have actually watched? And I'm not even asking the question, how many people have seen Pele play live? How many people have watched Pele play on video or anything a full match? Not many of us have ever had the opportunity to do it. You just know that he was amazing. And his highlights and everything justified that. It took me a long time to be willing to accept that Lionel Messi might be a better player than Pele. Because when you have that, like, Pele's like Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, that kid of our childhood, and we just don't want to let him go. And to say that there is somebody who could be better than that, I'm not sure that there is. But watching Messi play, especially in this World Cup,
At this age,
at 41, 42 years old, to see what he was doing. Couple of things. The stats bear out. Messi walks around, walks up 75% of the time. The average forward player walks 50% of the time. So say what you will, Messi walks twice as much as the average forward player in his position at the World Cup. The reason why he can do that is his acceleration from a standing start is so incredible that he can be almost standing still and accelerate to top speed, even as a 41-year-old, to get into a position. His balance, his agility. We have seen all the things in this World Cup that makes Messi great.
Mike, let me interrupt, Mike. But didn't you think Pele had more personal charisma, or do you think it was just the amount of publicity that everybody gave him during his course? Because I mean, he was like almost a superhuman being when he got here.
I think that Pele spoke better English. Messi left Argentina when he was about 13 years old.
Right.
He's only played in Argentina until he left to go to Paris Saint-Germain 4 years ago. He'd only ever played in Argentina and Spain. I think the problem with Messi is a bit of an introvert, which we're not used to saying. One of the best stories, gentlemen, that I'll ever tell you is the one that I heard. After Barcelona won their first Champions League, all the players come down through the hotel, and they've got their flashy suits and their shoes on. And Lionel Messi walks out with a pair of jeans, flip-flops, and a Lionel Messi jersey. He's just literally that unassuming. He's not a particularly charismatic guy. He's very introspective. And
Just the opposite of Pelé.
just the opposite of Pelé. And he's never going to do an interview in English because he really, really, really does not feel confident speaking. In fact, the commercial where I think it was for Coors Light, where he says to Billy Bob Thornton, football, that is just about the first word I've ever heard Messi speak in English. So
There you go.
He's not that guy. But that does not diminish what he's able to do. He's an amazing player. Probably one of the best that we've ever seen. Does he have Pelé's charisma? Yes. Does he have Pelé's command of the English language and his ability to do what Pelé does in media and stuff? No. But this is we are watching greatness, and we need to appreciate that.
Roger?
Well, it was interesting last night, Mike. They were kidding around about him and talking to Derek Jeter about being his neighbor in Florida, and Jeter's response was, "I'm not in that category. I'm not his neighbor." And he says, he's way above where I live. And I mean, and Jeter's got money, plenty of it. But I thought that was interesting. This guy must be. I have no idea where he lives in Florida. Do you?
No, I'm not gonna to seek that out. I know that when Kobe Bryant went to the Olympics, he said the one athlete that he wanted to meet out of everybody at that Olympics was Lionel Messi. And so he worldwide is in a different stratosphere. We are just not used to having, typically when we think of world superstars, these players who we consider to be the greatest of all time, they're more outgoing. They have a certain charisma, they have a certain presence. Messi just does not have that, nor will he ever.
Very down to earth, right?
I wouldn't say down to earth, just very, very reserved. And that was one of the things I said when Inter Miami signed it. If we were thinking that we were going to bring in the next David Beckham is extremely charismatic. He's extremely outgoing. He's going to sign everything. He's going to talk to everybody. He's going to be out in front of every camera and be that ambassador. Messi's not going to do that. He's not going to talk. He's not going to do interviews.
Well, how can he if he doesn't speak English very well and he's concerned? I mean, he certainly doesn't want to embarrass himself, so I would say that would be very much holding him back.
That's the point, Don. He speaks better English than he lets on. He just does not feel comfortable, so he will not do it.
Right.
And so, yes, everything you said is right. Like, if you're looking for somebody to be Pelé, David Beckham, be the face of professional soccer in the United States, Messi's not going to be your guy. He's just not that personality. He just doesn't have it. That's not who he is. We've had guys like that. I'm sure you've enjoyed watching Zlatan Ibrahimovic on the analysis, and Zlatan is every bit the flamboyant, big personality. The quotes with Zlatan are great. I was going over some of my favorites with a buddy of mine. When asked on Valentine's Day what Zlatan got his wife, Zlatan responded, Zlatan did not give his wife anything because Zlatan's wife has Zlatan, and what more should he ask for?
He got it all.
He has Zlatan. What more does he want? When told by Eric Cantona, whose nickname for the Manchester United is King, and Eric Cantona said, you may be great, but you will never be the king. Zlatan responded, why do I care about being the king? I'm a god.
Wow. What about the MLS, Mike? What about
I mean, when he came to the MLS, he delivered and did everything that he needed to do in LA Galaxy. He's that type of person that actually I would have said Zlatan would have been the perfect person to put in front because he's just got that personality where he's going to be out in front and he's going to talk everything. And to be as aggrandizing as he is, you have to have the skill to back it up. And consistently he has.
Mike, let's jump in on your expertise here for a minute because we only have about 4 minutes left in this segment. But let's go to the championship game, 3:00 Sunday afternoon on Fox. And what a job again as Fox has done in this whole tournament. But give us an idea now. What we can look forward to? Not necessarily picking winners or losers. That doesn't make any difference. What do you think about the flow of the game? What do you think they're going to do?
Starting on to bounds. Argentina is one of 6 teams ever to make a final to defend theirs. They're looking to become the 13th to ever defend a World Cup after Italy and Brazil. Lionel Messi has the opportunity to fully stamp his
Hello.
Hello.
What's up?
Yeah, just ready for your spot?
Okay, I'm in.
Okay. How was New York? Chestertown.
Yeah, it was great. Cooperstown was good. It was
Good.
It was a nice week that we spent up there. We had some family together time. We had some adult time. We had we had kid play time. I mean, it was an interesting week with regard to some of the talent, some of the teams, and some of the things we saw. So
yeah, maybe you can add that into your show.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. I'm going to merge you in.
Okay.
Lionel Messi probably going to be recognized as the greatest of all time. Going up against Lamine Yamal, the 19-year-old for Spain, who has every claim to be the greatest of all time in the future. They played for the same team. They came up through the same academy. They wear the same number. They play the same position. I'm going to go with Spain. I think that their depth and ability to dictate what they do is going to counteract what Spain does. And when I look at Spain, I think of them as a Balkan. They're not going to be pretty, but they're just going to squeeze the entire life out of you. And I have seen Spain do exactly what they have done before, but should Spain win, they'll be one of only 4 teams to back up a European championship with a World Cup. And they are so young that they could become the first team to win back-to-back European championships, World Cups, back that up with another European championship and a World Cup. They are extremely young. They are extremely gifted. And that could be the team that we need to watch out for over the course of the next 4 years.
Roger.
Getting back, Jeff, I'm going to ask you, one last question. Do you expect the MLS attendance to take off now that we've had great success with the World Cup, Mike?
The history dictates that domestic soccer, be it MLS or NWSL, will take a bump after the World Cup. The fact that it was here, I think we may add something to it, but I'm wondering why MLS decided that they were going to come back this weekend. Not let it ride until Wednesday of next week and let the final be played. They're going to play their first games on Friday, so MLS games are going to start Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you may actually have one or two that actually conflict with the World Cup final. I'm surprised that they made.
That's not a good thing to do.
Hey, listen. The British.
But Mike, you've been against their schedule, man, for a year. I mean, you talked about how can they be playing these games when they're playing? I mean, the distance between one and another, or the weekday that is not weekday, but the weekend that they're going to play. You've been against the schedule all year.
I've been against the MLS schedule for a long time, and I think Dawn is going to get a lot worse because they're talking about going to a fall summer schedule,
right?
Where they're actually going to put themselves up against NFL football, which I think is just about the stupidest thing that they could do, because now they're going to be playing games in cold weather environments in cold weather. There is no way. I've had at points in time season tickets to Philadelphia Union. I've been to see them in February. I've been to see them in March, when it's very, very cold. There is no way that I have the appetite to see them in November, December, January, when it's really cold, really wet, really snowy. A one-off, I'm fine with that, but you're telling me that I'm going to have to do this for 5, 6, 7 games? No.
And competing against the NFL.
Why would you do that? I think that is just about the worst thing that they could have done.
I could not agree with you more. I agreed with you all year this year. I thought the scheduling was terrible. Mike, we're just out of time. You like to stay on with us with Doug the next half hour? I don't know how much.
If Doug has any questions, I'll answer them from Doug. I would really appreciate Doug. Thank you, my brother. I asked him a question about some golf clubs. For a friend of mine, he got back to me immediately, and my buddy is on his way to pick up a set of golf clubs from Costco on your recommendation, Doug, and then he's going to get back to you on some lessons. So I'd love to hear you, brother.
Cool. Appreciate it, man.
All right, take care.
Take care, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll run over the championship game next week. Doug, first of all, before we get to the Open, before we get to golf, Cooperstown, your son, how'd you make out up there at the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I tell you, it was quite an experience. I mean, there's so many things.
Had you been there before?
No, I've never been there.
Okay.
You know, there's 2 applications of the tournament itself. We were at Dreams Park, which is one of the 2. It's a 114 tournament with teams, all over the country. We had Florida teams, we had, Texas teams, Maryland, New York. I mean, just all over the place. It's kind of a luck of the draw concept where they basically, put you in a little bit of a pool play, round robin where you play 5 games, and then based on your record, they go through the seeding process to get into the bracket. We were 2-3 in our 5 games. We won our first bracket game, then we lost our second one in a walk-off. I think there's some interesting takes from the week itself. I believe that upstate New York is beautiful. If I could see people from the city moving, having resort homes or summer homes rather out in that Cooperstown area, it's a pretty big deal. The tournament itself,
Pretty special, isn't that pretty special up there?
It is. I had played one summer of woodbat collegiate baseball in that similar area. I was more in Schenectady than I was in Cooperstown, but we played in Ithaca, Utica, Elmira, like just different places in upstate. It was absolutely beautiful. But I think a couple things that I saw. Number one, Thursday we went to the Hall of Fame, which was quite an experience. As a team with basically little leaguers that are looking at some of the greatest players that have ever worn a uniform. And I think there's a lot of layers of inspiration that I think were had from that. There's a 17-minute video that they play, upon getting there, and it'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It's that big of a deal. And then obviously you get to walk through the Hall of Fame and see, some of the greatest accomplishments, greatest players, greatest teams. They have some fun interactive stuff in there. It's really, really cool to go through, and then you can look through all the plaques that are in that bottom floor, first floor area, and just basically see, the results of the greatest players that have ever worn a uniform. Secondary thing was, a lot of these kids, wow. I mean, the talent pool that we saw in some of the games we played, as well as the other games that we watched from ancillary teams. We watched the championship game between a team from Tennessee and a team from Florida. One of the kids from Tennessee, you have to understand, regulation Major League Baseball is 60 feet 6 inches pitching mound. These kids are throwing from 51 feet, and a lot of these kids are throwing 75, 80 miles an hour from 51 feet, which is the equivalency of about 95 miles an hour in Major League Baseball at 12 years old. So, the fences are only 200 feet, which is not, there were baseballs flying out of, these parks. I can imagine that some of the best home run hitters that were there for the week we were there probably hit 15 or 20 home runs during the week. So it was a pretty big deal. It was fun to watch. It was nice to take a little bit of a break from, the junior golf camps that I'm doing, and it was a good time.
Roger?
Yeah, Doug, was going to say just a couple of weeks ago, met a family, and a pretty large family, because they were in two cars and they came over to Margaritaville, but they were here. You may have heard of East Cobb baseball, which is huge. Yeah. I went there a number of years ago now with my friend whose son was playing there, and he after that went to Paris and got his master's. So and now he's married. So this shows you this is a long time ago. But what this family was telling me, the father they're from Indiana. Okay. And they were in this big tournament, but they never played at East Cobb. They played all over, and they were high school age. And they did get to play at the University of Georgia baseball stadium.
Oh, nice.
And they said that was just outstanding, just to be there. So it's amazing how these tournaments evolved and how many teams. Like you said, there were hundreds of teams in Cooperstown. There were hundreds of teams at East Cobb, that signed up. I mean, these are big operations. These tournaments. I know what it was like with AAU basketball, high school basketball tournaments. But this baseball is huge.
Yeah. No, the locals that we spoke with, patronizing some of the businesses for lunches and dinners, basically mentioned that the tournaments that they run in Cooperstown last about, I think he said somewhere between 12 and 15 weeks that they run week-long events, and a lot of those places will close up after that period of time, and they make an inordinate amount of money during that span. It is, millions and millions and millions of dollars that they rake from those events. And then the local businesses obviously do their thing. A lot of the restaurants I thought were extremely overpriced. Like a grilled cheese sandwich was $17 at one of the restaurants.
Ooh.
Five Guys cost me for a burger $20.
Yeah.
And that's a change. That's the last time I'm at Five Guys.
Right. Well, I mean, a bottle of water at the Cooperstown Park where we went was $4.50. An iced tea was $6. I mean, they really kind of get you over a barrel there with
gouge you.
It's like going to Disney. I mean, you're there and you're a captive audience, and they can do what they want with you. I mean,
Exactly right. Exactly right. They know you're not coming back. You're going to be there. You're going to spend the money.
yeah, there were, downtown Main Street. There was a lot of just local businesses that are selling jerseys and hats and baseball cards, and there's Cooperstown Bat down there, which is pretty cool. They make their own bats that people in the major league use. The first day that we were there, we ate at a restaurant. I think for three of us, it was $140 maybe with tip. So I mean, I think I had a burger. I mean, so it's pretty expensive.
How are the prices in the Hall of Fame? Like at the souvenirs, the gift shop?
I mean, I think relative to what you're buying. I mean, a baseball cap was no different really. It's $30 or so.
30, 35.
They have a lot of where they get you inside there is the memorabilia with regard to, they have baseball cards. They have, different commemorations, if you will, the plaques that are housed there that you can buy if I want to buy Mickey Mantles, whatever. They have Hall of Fame jerseys. They have regular, Major League Baseball entities with hats and jerseys. It's the knickknacks. It's the little keychains and, refrigerator magnets and Christmas ornaments, and you can get an engraved bat with Cooperstown and just shit like that just kind of adds up.
All the normal compliments of
right.
Yeah. No matter where you go, when you go to any of these places, they all have the same basically. That's how they make their money. Let's face it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean it's just a big giant machine that just keeps rolling. And just they had in that downtown Main Street area, they had Doubleday Field, which quote unquote is where baseball was invented. They have just a bunch of different things that you can go see. It's a small town feel with most of the people that we ran into were normal people, were pretty nice people that would just stop and have a chat with you. So
didn't stop in Saratoga on your way home, did it?
No.
I'll tell you there, you got to go there. Oh yeah, you got to go there. I did that. That was my first stop. I came out of Cooperstown. I went right to Saratoga.
No, I think there's a distinction here, Don, that we need to understand that if you go with just your wife, it's a vacation. If you have kids along, it's a trip.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Doug, the last time I was up at Cooperstown, and I love it. I went there with my buddy after we graduated from high school, and I've been there with my family and everything else. I agree with you, 100%.
Go on, terrific.
Yeah, the last time I was there was with I guess three of my friends, a number of years ago now, and they were big Yankee fans. And of course, Reggie wasn't going in, Mr. October, but he was there. And I got to tell you, they were doing everything, to try to get his autograph. He totally, it wasn't me so much, and my buddy played with him at Cheltenham High School. Okay, so not one of my friends there, but another one of my friends. So it was no big deal. To them, it was a big deal. He totally blew us off.
Mm-hmm.
Totally blew us off.
Yeah.
And, and I don't know if that's just with his personality. This is about 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was up there for the weekend, when they have the inductions and everything.
Sure.
You know, and I just, I could care less. But I'll
He's
tell
much
you,
more cooperative now than he was in those days. I'll tell
he
you that.
probably is. Yeah.
Yeah, because now he's not the guy that's in demand.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah.
Well, let's get to the Open. Not the British. They don't call it the British Open anymore. Now it's just the Open. And I'll tell you, what a great field they have. And Scotty, can he bounce back and win? He's had one win this year, which is a little unusual. He has had a couple of very good seconds and thirds and so forth. But I'll tell you, I think this is going to be one terrific tournament coming up this weekend.
And we always look forward to I look forward to the Open for many reasons. I think this week they're probably going to have some of the best weather that they can ever imagine. I mean, typically we're sweating our butts off here as we currently are in the United States, and they're wearing winter caps or sweaters during this event. And I think it's pretty steady with not super windy. There's no rain, I think, in the forecast. I think your temperatures are pretty mild in the 70s and maybe low 80s.
And the fairways are hard. The drivers are going to be out there. They are going to hit the ball 1.5 miles.
Yeah, I think there were multiple reports that I was watching on the Golf Channel as they were talking to some of the players in their practice rounds and what they were talking about with firm and fast in terms of their fairways that may bring into play some bunkers that otherwise wouldn't be in play.
Right.
The key talking points this particular week are some of the redesign of the golf course. I think the fifth hole, I mean, there's multiple holes that are changed, but I think the two biggest were, I think it was 5 and 15 maybe, is a brand new par 3 that didn't exist the last time this was in the rotation. I think Jordan Spieth won it the last time this was in the rotation. So we'll have an opportunity. The big deal, I think, for me is the fact that, most of the times when you're talking about watching golf, it's, mid-afternoon, evening, etc. I mean, they're playing the Masters till almost the sun goes down. But this some of the first tee times, Eastern Standard Time, are going to go off before 5 o'clock in the morning. So for those early risers that are up and about, having coffee, drinking, their V8s and doing their things for the morning, you can put TV on and get a sense of kind of what's happening. And I like that. I think that's pretty cool. Almost like when they start the season and they do the Hawaii turn, some of the times are obviously different. So it gives you a little bit of a different flavor. And I like this event an awful lot. I would say, obviously the Masters is fun. The PGA Championship represents, my sports world series in terms of what I do. The U.S. Open is always on Father's Day, which is fabulous in terms of the meaning behind some of the winners and how some of these guys got started. But the Open has its own story, and I think it's a really cool story.
And I think one of the things too, Fleetwood, for instance, it's his neighborhood. I mean, that's where he grew up.
Yeah.
And then he's playing great golf right now, no question about that. So I mean, there's so many rows. They still talk about the shot that Rose hit when he was an amateur. He wasn't a pro yet. He was only 19 years old. And that shot was one of the great shots by an amateur in all of golf. Unbelievable. Yeah, and then, you think how many times he's played, and then he didn't make the cut. It's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be a terrific tournament.
Don, you're a historian of many sports. Just a gigantic encyclopedia of sports knowledge. And, we can go back and we can look at, they were showing highlights or lowlights, depending on how you would view them, of the Van de Velde incident.
Yeah. Is it correct?
Sure. You look at some of the unsung, if you will, winners of, this event. I was rooting so hard for Tom Watson that last time, in that.
Oh, absolutely.
There's just so many people that have stood forward in this event that you otherwise wouldn't have known about before.
And when Tom Watson went over that putt, I had no confidence for some reason that he was going to make that putt and win that tournament at that age. I just had no, and he was a good putter,
right? Well, I mean, that's kind of one of the things that as you get older, unfortunately, your steely nerves tend to leave you when it comes to
holding everything steady and
Right.
that do retire and stop, playing golf at that level can vouch for the fact that those shorter putts tend to look a little longer as you get older.
And the other kid from Freehold, or outside of Freehold, when it comes to, he won 62 last Sunday to win the tournament last week, and he's done well at Scottish. I didn't see what his score was today, but he's really playing very well right now too, and he loves it. He's a line drive driver. I mean, you a line drive driver on this golf course, that's half the battle.
Well, I mean, again, if you look back through this, 1999, you had Paul Laurie. No one knew who the hell he was.
Right.
Ben Curtis, 2003. Louis Oosthuizen in 2010. At that point, wasn't stalwart, if you will. 2019, you had Shane Lowry. Brian Harmon, in 2023. Cam Smith in 22. Some of these guys were just. There's one that I was looking for, and I can't remember exactly. Well, you got Ian Baker Finch, who just after that, 1991 was a disaster for the rest of his career. I mean, Greg Norman, as good as he was, should have won many more majors in '86.
Absolutely.
I can't remember, but Sandy Lyle might still be playing in this daggone thing, shooting his big score. They probably right around 100 at that time he rolls into the house. But David Duval, 2001. Todd Hamilton, there you go. That was the guy. 2004.
David Duval's another one that should have won a lot more tournaments. That skiing guy should have sort of took him out of the picture for a while.
I was going to say, when he was more heavy set, I think his game was dialed in, and then I think he went through a rough patch there personally. I think he went through a divorce or something, and all of a sudden he lost a bunch of weight, and he couldn't do it. And that was the same thing with Ian Baker Finch. I mean, he played a cut forever, and somebody told him, he said, look, buddy, you're not going to win anymore unless you play a draw. And then he started trying to play a draw, and he couldn't break 90. So it happens. You've got through the annals of time there. You've got so many really, really good players. I mean, John Daly, there you go, 1995. Faldo and Ballesteros and Watson. I mean, these are the Jack Nicklaus. I mean,
Cream of the crop.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And as you look,
Roger, I know you don't see them all, but I'll tell you, watch this tour because you're going to like it. I mean,
Who's the favorite going into this tournament in both your opinions?
That's a great question. I mean,
I think Scotty's a favorite. I think he's gonna bounce back this week.
I think you'd have to go with him as you're just, you were wearing a blindfold and you had a dartboard and every name on it was Scotty Scheffler and you threw your dart. You know what I mean? I think that's the easy answer. But I mean, as Don mentioned, you've got, Fleetwood, who's in his neighborhood. I mean, Roy McIlroy's played tremendous this year. And we know that the game, across the pond is different than it is here in terms of how they play with more links style. American golf is elevated greens, tree-lined fairways. It's a completely different game.
Right.
I think there is quite an advantage for those former European Tour players that would.
And I'll tell you, don't go off the fairway, Doug.
Yeah, well, we constantly bitch in the U.S. Open about 3 and 4 inch rough areas as they let that grow. I mean, you get into some of that wispy stuff, and it's 4 inches is a blessing. But it's to your point though, Don, with the temperatures and how firm it is. A lot of those areas they're still wispy, but it's dried a lot more. It's not like it's as potent, if you will, with regard to grabbing a hold of your club because it's super dry. If it were any moisture in there, that would be a disaster for some of those guys.
And those potholes, you got to be you got to be lucky. I mean, you got to be lucky.
I don't know that this one is as devastating as some. They did remove apparently a number of different bunkers.
No, I didn't see that. Is that right? I didn't see that.
In the redesign, they were taking us through. As I watched it on the Golf Channel, they were taking it through basically all the holes, and there were quite a few that had been redesigned. And you could see they had a picture on the left of the picture of the new on the right, you know, you could see areas that were bunkers were now grass. So, I mean, I don't know how many it was, but it's enough. I mean, you know, as you mentioned, some of those tiny little bunkers you tend to get in are problematic to get out. It's almost a penalty shot to hit it sideways. You know, so as you get firm and fast fairways and all of a sudden the ball starts plunging 30, 40, 50, 60 plus yards further than it's going to be, you can probably enter some of those areas that you didn't think you had a chance to get into. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's always fun to watch. You'll see some no names that, you know, maybe even an amateur or two that populate the top of that list. And then all of a sudden it becomes your normal closing horse race with some of your better players. And Sheffield should be there, I would think.
Tick, tick, tock, tick, tick, tock.
We're out of time. Doug, great to talk to you about Cooperstown.
Yeah.
Great to, and we'll all get together next week and we'll talk about the Open and see how it all turns out.
Absolutely.
Have a great week. God bless.
Thanks to all our guests. Thank you very much, Frank. Another excellent job, and we'll talk to you as the week goes on. Take care, boys. Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, these programs are brought to you each and every night of the week in grateful appreciation to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces and men and women police and fire services. When you're out there and you see somebody in uniform, please let them know you know they're there. It's very difficult times for men and women in uniform, both foreign and domestic. These programs are dedicated to those who've lost their lives in line of duty. Deputy Robert Anthony Carroll, Patrolman David Curtis, Patrolman Jeffrey Colcap, Patrolman Jeffrey Yazowitz, Sergeant Thomas Batinger, San Diego Officer Mike Hendler, Sergeant Tom Wilson, Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Randy Bell and Ricky Childers, Patrolman Charlie Condit, Tarpon Springs Police Department, Chief Mike Godwin, Philadelphia Fire Department, Lieutenant Joyce Craig Lewis, Philadelphia Fire Department, Sergeant James O'Connor, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Chris LeVake, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Mike Zerba, Newcastle County Police, Patrolman Arthur Crispin, Lakeland PD, Deputy Josh Meyer, Nassau County Sheriff's Department, Captain Matt Letourneau, Philadelphia Fire Department, Captain Chris Leach, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Ardith Hope, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Jerry Ficus, Wilmington Fire Department, Chief Jimmy Ford, Wilmington Fire Department, Deputy Mike Hargrove, Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, Trooper Chelsea Richards, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Joe Bullock, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Zachary Ben, Florida Highway Patrol, Sergeant Chris Fitzgerald, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Ramon Mendez, Philadelphia Police Department, Chief Corey Compadriere, Buffalo Creek Fire Department, Deputy Ronnie Ronazinski, Manatee County Sheriff's Department, Patrolman Zachary Butterfield, Bradenton PD, Corporal Timothy O'Connor, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania State Police. My brothers and Corporal Mike Behart, Pennsylvania State Police. My brothers and sisters, though, we be 10-7 at this point in time. Sometime it will be 10-10 at the table of the Lord. Till the time when the rose rise up to meet you, may the winds be always at your back. May the rains fall softly on your fields, and the sun shine lightly on your face. Until we meet again, may the good Lord keep you and your family always in the palm of his hands. Good night, God bless, and have a great week.